Hello everyone, welcome back to Style and Direction, a menswear podcast without the stuffiness. I am Ethan M. Wong.
And I'm Spencer DSO.
Spencer, what are you wearing today?
What am I wearing today?
Yeah, first segment.
Today I am wearing a J. Crew Aloha shirt that I've had for a long time, and my cut-off olive military shorts because it's getting hot.
It's like 95 degrees. I think it's supposed to be like 99 or something like this weekend or something. It's crazy.
Luckily, I have a pool.
White privilege. Yeah. There it is. No, I'm wearing the classic white Breton stripe tee with a pair of true vintage, I don't know how old they are, but they are navy Gurkha shorts. I got that from Raggedy Threads, which, if you read my article, is one of my favorite places to go shopping at in Los Angeles.
You know, I'm bummed out. I was supposed to get the Uniqlo Gurkha shorts today. It's scheduled delivery for today, but FedEx has still not received it.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, so it's like label created, expected delivery today, but it hasn't, as far as I know, it hasn't even left the Uniqlo warehouse. What are they doing over there? Last week we talked about slave labor, and here I am buying from them, and they screw up my package?
What's the point of using it?
Exactly. What's
if it's not going to be here?
Jesus.
I mean, we all still use Amazon. Let's get real, guys. Yeah. We live in a world of privilege.
We live in a society.
Joker, baby.
Yeah.
No, and speaking of things that just came in, or at least for me, I got a rug. I don't know if I mentioned that on like the previous episode or whatever, but my rug came in.
How does it look?
I have no idea how old it is. Someone told me it's a tribal rug and not really a Persian Oriental rug. I don't care. It's cool. It's red and black. It's got a cool design on it. Perfect.
Yeah, I have a rug that I got from a friend of mine.
Yeah, that's right.
Unfortunately, hey, damn it. I don't remember the name of her business. But we will include that somewhere.
I mean, maybe we'll talk about decorating houses at some point.
Yeah, but I'll figure out some way to plug her business.
Yeah. Plugs. Gonna listen to some plugs.
Yep.
Comedy Bang Bang. Sad jokes explained.
Yeah, but anyway, the rug that I got, I like it a lot. It's pretty small, so like I kind of want like a larger rug. But yeah, rugs can get expensive.
Yeah, I got mine because David Coggins, who I'm sure we will reference later on in this podcast episode, I'm pretty sure I don't know who interviewed him, maybe Architectural Digest or some sort of blog or something, but he says, like, I've got like 1 billion rugs and I put them everywhere in my house. And in the photography, there's literally, it's like patchwork, like all over, like different rugs just in different parts of his house. Like they're like on top of each other. I don't know what you call that type of like interior design. I don't know what it is. But I'm really into it.
So you also started looking up rugs after we had a conversation about rugs in Animal Crossing.
Yes, this is. I'm currently working on an article about Animal Crossing. It is not sponsored, even though it sounds like it, because if you know me very well, I only played like Modern Warfare or Battlefront. I never played like anything. I never even played like RPGs. So like anything that wasn't an FPS was like not on my radar, and then this game is like the best thing I've ever played, and I love it, and I'm able to decorate.
It's a lot of fun.
Landscape. It is a lot of fun. So keep an eye out for that article.
Did you get any shrubs today?
I bought some shrubs, and I think I'm gonna make a like a little park area now, because why not?
Yeah, no, I'm doing the same. Like I don't know what to do with mine. I don't know what to do with mine because I know that I get 5 times the normal amount of Nook miles for planting 5 shrubs. Just don't know where I'm going to put them.
Yeah, as long as you're not the Knights of Ni, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Icky patang zoom boom.
When's the last time you saw that movie?
I don't know. That could be our next group watch.
It's a good one.
Quarantine. It's my first Monty Python film.
The first one that I watched was Meaning of Life. But I watched it in secret. I wasn't allowed to, but we had the DVD, so I watched it anyway.
That reminds me of when during a Filipino party, my family's very conservative Christian. Family Guy came on, and I knew that I wasn't supposed to watch it, so I watched an episode without turning the volume on, and it was very weird. I had no idea what was happening, but I was like, I'm watching it. I'm finally watching.
You were like, hell yeah,
like,
this is what everyone.
Yeah, what other fifth graders have told me about, you know. But anyway, today we are talking about a topic that, you know, is suggested to us, something I've always wanted to talk about. It's the topic of lifestyle within menswear. It's kind of, you know, we're going to dive deep on what that is right now, as a matter of fact.
Right now?
It's just right now. That's right. You know, it's something, because, like, as someone who has struggled with identity in terms of, like, where you belong in terms of interest, it's always been an interesting topic for me. And I'm sure for the same thing for Spencer, same thing for our friends that we interact with. You know, it's something that we talk about quite a bit, just because, you know, some of us are involved in the industry, some of us work in it, some of us shop in it, you know, some of us live near other people. I
don't live near anyone. I live on a big ranch. It's 100 acres. No one around for miles. This is not true.
What are you, W.M. Brown?
I'm W.M. Brown over here.
Yeah. But yeah, our friend, right now we're live on Instagram, as we actually weren't in the Sherlock episode, but we're back now. Our friend Jason kind of kicked us off here with the topic. It's, do you think the menswear lifestyle can come off as elitist? Now that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing, but something that we should definitely talk about. So let's first dive into, what do you think the lifestyle is?
I mean, it's like, you know, when you're talking about menswear, I think you're talking about like, the thing that comes to most people's minds, I think, is like the idea of like cool manliness from, like, I don't know, like 10 years ago, like around the time when like Mad Men came out and everyone's like, you got to wear a suit, you got to smoke cigars.
Right.
Like I was, Community just got on Netflix and I'm watching it, and I never realized how like obnoxiously like Reddit manly Jeff Winger is. Like in his fantasy, he's like, the vending machine is filled with like fine meats or whatever, and like he loves whiskey and shit like that. So I think that's what most people think of.
That's a pretty apt thing for
like
that.
Cool cars, cool watches, whatever. And it's like, again, not all of that is bad. Like, I like, you know, good meats and nice drinks or whatever, but
pretty ladies.
Yeah. But yeah.
That's
generally what I think of.
I think it's, you know, my first encounter with like suiting, like lifestyle, before I got into the whole like realm of vintage and classic menswear, was like the Barney Stinson thing. So very, very similar. Because Jeff, to me, he wasn't like manly. I think he was cool.
Okay.
But he didn't wear like a suit. So I didn't see that. But like Barney Stinson, like minimal apartment, hooking up, masculine guy. Even though, you know, he's played by, you know, a gay icon. He, you know, it's like that to me was like the whole thing. Like you have to drink whiskey all the time. I mean, there are connotations there, but to me it was like a bigger thing to in my head, because he was wearing a suit. And I think a lot of my friends in like high school or my church would be like, see, like that's it, like that's what you got to do to be a man. And then you get into like the vintage menswear part, because that's where I got my start, and you have a little bit of like the whole, well, it's manly, but also like, what's an old school man? Like, they're, you know, like it's got to cook, got to provide for the family, nice cars, you know, vintage cars or whatever, and, you know, like vintage ideals. I think
a lot of that, I think with vintage menswear, it's kind of different. Just because, I don't know, at least the parties we went to, I didn't see as many people were like, this fine cigar, or like this, like, you know, there was no like whiskey tastings or whatever. And no offense to a lot of our friends in vintage menswear, but seems kind of like nerdier. Like, you're like big into like swing dancing and like collecting like old, you know, like jazz records and old movies and stuff, like Hollywood Magic, which just seems like, you know, quote unquote like nerdier whatever than what we were just talking about. Right.
So what is it today? Because I think the big distinction that we have, that we've definitely have talked about in other group chats, is like this aspect between like the luxury menswear lifestyle and like the artsy lifestyle. So like not really like what it means to be a man, but like just what does your life entail? I think is a better argument.
I think you could say that discussion. Like, I am not as in the industry, but it's like what the vibe that not the vibe like the impression I get from a lot of brands is that most brands now are lifestyle brands. It seems like since like Ralph
there's
Lauren,
a good put this on article. Well,
yeah, like most brands became lifestyle brands, and so I think when you're talking about like the fun, quirky nature, you can look at like old school, like, you know, not, I shouldn't say old school, like the idea that of manliness that we were just talking about, that seems a little bit outdated from like 10 years ago. That's all like the art of manliness shit, like, you know how to chop down a tree and like tell wines apart or whatever. That seems different than like the remember the Drake's lookbook when they're in Rome and he's like hanging out with like the tourist trap, like Roman soldiers.
Oh yeah, the caricature thing.
And you know, getting stuff from like local stands. That seems different. That seems like more fun and quirky lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah.
That's you know, I think like Patrick, I mean, these people kind of share photographers too, even.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a sorry, I got a phone call for some reason and I just had to deny it.
Was it the 80s calling?
Yeah, my beeper.
Nice. They want their mustache back. I was just watching the Tim Robinson episode of The Characters again because it's the 10th anniversary of not 10th, first anniversary of I Think You Should Leave.
Is that really?
It came out a year ago today.
Holy shit!
Yeah, right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But I think what I really want to talk about is, you know, like the people like within it and like what like lifestyle they perpetuate, because I feel like there's, when you're into menswear, at least classic menswear, there is a certain lifestyle that you tend to lead because, number one, it's expensive to be into it.
Mm.
And, you know, when you're at that point in your life where you can afford it, you tend to be of like a certain nature. It's kind of homogenized. Like a lot of people are, if you're not working in the industry, you know, if you're partaking in it, you're either like a lawyer, you're like a financier, you're like some sort of rich guy, well-to-do job, white-collar kind of thing. And then with that comes fine clothing. With that comes the fine meats, the fine wine, the fine alcohol.
And I think another part of it is that if you're into it, you have friends that are into it, and it's just like, okay, this is a thing that we do.
Yeah, but why do you think that those things kind of go hand in hand? Not just the people, but like the things. I mean, there is the aspect of like when you like fine clothing, you just tend to like fine things, and obviously you start to like.
No, I mean, I think that's
things.
it. What you said before is if you have the money, you're probably going to get into this, and I think it's because you come from wealth, you meet some people in menswear, and they take, you know, they show you what they're into, and then like you're okay, I need to get into this now, or as you said before, you were already into it. I think it's just like it's self-perpetuating because people in menswear are into this. New people are going to get into this.
Do you ever think that's kind of weird though? Like,
sure.
I mean, no, I'm just saying because it's like clearly we have friends who are not who appreciate the clothing, who can wear the clothing, but they're not particularly like that or into that, like that same lifestyle, which I'm sure is difficult for some people.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, obviously there's by definition there is a certain income level that you can't, you know, if you can't afford it, then you just can't partake in it, right? You can just admire it from afar. But it's always interesting to me to see like that it is so, like, I don't know, luxurious. You know, it's very, when I think of menswear, like as a lot of people on Reddit do, because I'm in male fashion advice, right? You know, and as someone in it, you know, they always associate that with like, you know, like permanent style. Right, everything is like bespoke clothing. He has a bespoke hoodie, you know.
That's right.
It's like that kind of thing where like, you know, when you're like that, you're a little out of touch compared to like the regular people. Not to me, but like, you know, just reading comments wise, you know, just seeing how people, you know, perceive it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I feel like as someone who's like super into it, you know, there's plenty of threads as well that we can link to, you know, where they ask whether or not your clothes signal your lifestyle or your interests, and a lot of people assume that when you're into menswear, you have that kind of same I don't know. It's very detached.
I think
don't know.
generally that's a safe assumption, because even the people that that I have in my notes, like, here, that started out with different interests. Like, we have, like, there's a lot of punk rockers in menswear.
Right.
They still like all the the menswear shit, like the fancy menswear shit. Even if they're like into punk, they still like the cigars or whatever. They still like the whiskey. So I think it's generally a safe assumption to make, even if there are exceptions. I think most of the big guys in menswear share at least some similar interests.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think it's elitist?
I think it can be, but I don't think it is necessarily.
Right.
Maybe it's just because I've met a lot of these people. I think they're all very like welcoming and non-elitist, but I can absolutely see how I could see how someone would view it as such.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like if we look at the guys on the list. Okay, so like the number one person I have on the list is Alexander Kraft, who is, I've never met him, but he owns like a hotel chain. And I think he's like a real estate guy, and it's like a little insane that, people's lives are like that, which, I mean, it's possible people are already like that, but I don't know, as someone who's always been like on the outside of it, who's never really connected, like I was into vintage clothing and I never was into vintage lifestyle, it's always a little interesting to see, because I feel like that definitely, if not elitist, can be kind of intimidating. Maybe that's a better word.
That is a better word. That is a better word.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, because it's like, I mean, maybe it's just, I have in my notes here that, why do I feel this way? And I always feel like maybe it could be age, right? Like, I'm not 40. I haven't tried every, cut of steak in the world. And I found out that Wagyu from like Australia is like the best, that there could be. I've never had that, nor do I want to at this stage in life, It could be income levels just in general, because I think that maybe I'm just a simple guy from the heartland, even though I'm a West Coast liberal elite.
Okay.
But it's just like there's that kind of thing where it's just interesting when people have those kind of connotations, and I wish it wasn't that way, but I think that in general, I mean, like, if you're into wearing a suit, you're probably not a super work-weary person in general, like if you prefer to wear a fine suit, maybe you don't like wearing jeans, which is kind of the truth to some people, where we've met guys who like literally don't own jeans because they find them too casual or too...
I have been called out in public by someone who refuses to wear jeans.
Yeah. And I know there's another friend of ours who I think we've referenced before, but he like never wore jeans, and then he finally did. And it like changed,
it changed his life.
It changed his life.
Now he's wearing the Justin Timberlake all denim outfit all the time now.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's the 2000s version of the Bing Crosby, right? Yeah, exactly. The whole denim blazer Bing with
Crosby,
the whole thing.
Denim tuxedo.
Yeah. I don't know, because I feel like, to double back, I feel like the guys who are into like men, like the luxury side of menswear, tend to be very... They come off as not really like so as grounded as the rest of us.
Okay.
In a sense, where I don't know, I feel like they don't share that part of them. Maybe again, it could be just be age. They joined social media later on, right? Mm-hmm. So because I know like a lot of people, like it's common for younger people to share like more aspects of their life. So
you're just saying that if you go on their social media, it seems more like a brand than like just them.
Maybe, or I think it's like it's very, they portray the lifestyle a lot, which makes me think that that's all that they do, which could is on me, right? But it's also kind of like perpetuating, like you said earlier, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you only share that part, then other people think that, and then people get into it because that's what they feel like they want to do, And
I feel like I want to be like this person, so I'm going to get into the same thing that this person is into. Right.
And we could take like the Negroni thing as a thing, right? Like Matt Matt Hranick is has a lifestyle. He has like, I think he kind of exemplifies everything from like the menswear lifestyle, right? He was a travel writer, so it comes with the territory. It's not like he's just doing it, to perpetuate it, but like, he travels a lot. He cooks meat all the time. His stories during quarantine are fantastic. Showing the rest of us these gourmet meats and all the great stuff. But lots of people kind of fall into it. Like, they're like, oh yeah, you got to have the Negroni. It's like it's the menswear drink now.
Stanley Tucci's getting into it.
Yeah, right. Apparently he did it wrong. Didn't he shake it or something?
Did he? I don't know. I've never made a Negroni.
I don't like Negronis. Crucify me.
I had one in my life. I'd be willing to try it again. But yeah,
it's just bitter.
Well, you just don't like alcohol.
It's got to be sweet. I'll drink a margarita any day.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I'm into.
Because I think the one of the problems, the one that we had was like pre-made, and so I think it was like the ice had melted a little bit. It was like a little bit warmer. But yeah, so I can't say that I've had like a really good one, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll have to order it or something. Hey, if anyone listening hangs out with us and you want to buy me a Negroni just so I can try a good one, feel free.
Who knows when that will be?
Yeah, who knows? Let's see if quarantine doesn't get extended yet another month or something. But yeah, I mean, that's, to me, like, it's always either that kind of life, that kind of, to me, unattainable, because I don't know if I'll ever be at that point, But the other side is kind of like the other friends that we have that are like, I always consider them to be like art student guys who just happen to be into menswear. Like, there's just something about, again, most of them are from New York, right? But they have a very New York Instagram where like things are like abstract, like everything on like, it's kind of like an ironic caption or something, or something unrelated, blurry flash pictures, and they're always out doing stuff. A lot of them are into like folk music. I know Chase, I think, is a really big guy into like folk and everything. I could be getting it wrong. I don't know music, guys. I only know film scoring.
Jesus.
But it's a little bit different. I feel like,
I feel like I mean, I don't.
To me, there's always a two.
Yeah, I identify more with that group, I guess.
Of course, I think we both do. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's like,
it's interesting.
It's definitely. I don't think this particular that particular, like, you can't attribute all of that just to menswear, because like you said, like, it's just like art student. It's just like. Yeah, it's like a lot of the people that I follow, like, on Twitter, who are into like movies or whatever, you could probably fit. They have like
similar like, Instagrams.
Yeah, or it's not, like even
or like the life,
like the Carolyn Calloway fits into this kind of.
Yeah, no, yeah, the whole Rowing Blazers kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's I mean, I think it's always just worth talking about, because I feel like it's so interesting. Like, maybe that's a difference where like the younger artsy version of it is like regular young 20 mid to late 20-year-old life, who's into, and people our age and older tend to be into the same kind of like,
because I think it's also when you're
kind of scene,
when you're younger and you wear the stuff that like a lot of these people do, it becomes kind of like, quote unquote, like ironic. It's like, I'm a young guy, but I'm dressing.
I pointed at Spencer in the video chat, that just so you guys know.
But it's like, I'm a hip young guy, but I dress like a 1970s like English professor or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Which has happened when I have gone out with these people, and they were like, someone asked us, why are you dressed like that? And before we could say anything, one of them said, oh, we just like to dress up like English professors, which I thought was a really good response.
Exactly.
And the guy was drunk. I don't think he even knew what we were saying.
Yeah.
But I think, that's an interesting take on it. Like, I think the lifestyle when you're younger into menswear, it does come off as ironic.
I don't want to say that they're wearing these clothes ironically. I think everyone that we know has a genuine love for these, like a sincere love.
But it kind of, you joke about it, right? Yeah. I think that's also a big thing about this whole lifestyle argument, where when it's younger, there's a little bit more like self-awareness about it. There's a little bit more poking fun, if we talk about me and you, we live in LA County, Orange County, where we are the OC. I'll call it that.
Don't call it that.
Where the most casual city, or at least most known for being casual, and yet we wear this stuff. I'm sure there is an ounce of irony in what we're doing. And the same could be said for these guys, but compared to say like Permanent Style or
where it seems
more stalwart, it comes off more as like, well, this is what is right for me at my age. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm supposed to be
I have
doing.
a level of I'm comfortably enough income wise that I can get the very best for myself.
Yeah, it's like self-gratifying compared to maybe us or like me, where you buy Shell Cordovan loafers, even though I could get by with just wearing sneakers for the rest of my life, or at least for this part of my life. I think that is definitely something that kind of contributes, why a lot of young people can get out of touch with the older, lifestyle of the I guess menswear elite, if you want to call it that, and then why the younger side seems a bit more accessible. But even then, you could argue, I think, because both tend to be elitist in some form, or maybe not elitist, but intimidating. That's a better word for it.
Again, intimidating is the better word for it.
Yeah, because again, for me, I don't think I'm an artsy guy that happens to dress up. I think I'm more classified as a nerd who happens to dress up. Because I definitely I'm not really that artsy. I think I remember being in college where I had this conversation with a friend of mine who is not into menswear at all. This is just a separate friend, where I was telling, they asked me oh, why didn't you hang out with other arts people if you liked writing music, if you like painting? And I'm because I hung out with them and they did not like me.
Jesus.
It was just interesting. Maybe not they didn't like me, but I think it wasn't as comforting, because I think in general, whether it's again the luxury or the younger side, if you're not completely into it, on the outside, it can be kind of well, then you're not cool enough to hang out with us. And I'm sure, you and I have been like this too, right?
Or it's I've been in you get in conversations with people, and I like art, but I don't go to museums every weekend. There's a handful of artists that I know and love, but I can't I can't look at a painting that I don't know and be okay, this is this person, unless they have an incredibly recognizable style. So I've gotten to conversations with art people, and I'm so afraid of them finding out that I don't know anything. And it's the same thing for even stuff that I am really into, movies. Sometimes I'll get into conversations with people who have seen a lot more foreign films with me, or seen more of the quote unquote classics, and I'm okay, what am I doing here?
How do you think I feel when you're talking to Adam?
Yeah, okay.
Even though thanks to you guys, I have seen some great films, and thanks to quarantine I've been able to watch some stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big thing about menswear. I think when you look at the lifestyle wise, there's a lot of in the know kind of stuff, right? Oh, if you don't know Drake's, oh, you're not really that into it. Just with streetwear. Again, we're just talking about this. Is not really a debate on what lifestyle is better, but just observations about how, whether or not it's menswear, there is that aspect of if you're not in the know, then you can't really be part of the club. Yeah. Not intentionally, but it kind of like Spencer says, it's just how it feels when you're on the outside, right? Like if Spencer hadn't seen that movie and people are talking about it, they're not talking about it because they want to exclude Spencer. They're talking about it because they like it. Mm-hmm. But then Spencer literally can't contribute because he hasn't watched the movie.
That's true.
So it's an interesting thing that with menswear, it's a bit more on the nose, right? Because if you're not wearing it, maybe you're just not. It's easier to kind of cast someone off, and again, I would say that Spencer and I are still guilty of this, because say, we're at Dapper Day or something, and there are people wearing clip-on suspenders. We're not going to go out of our way to talk to these people. No. If we can say hi, but we wouldn't really consider them menswear, right? And so that just there are times when I was in New York or whatever where I feel not really as into the whole scene, and I think it's because again they're artsy guys. They're really cool people. I haven't read Infinite Jest. I've never tried a bullshot, but it's that kind of aspect of this lifestyle that people perpetuate, whether it's intentional or not, that makes it kind of hard to be a part of, as someone who is, I mean, again, not as into it, you know. Because I mean, there's even like that within workwear, right? Like a lot of workwear guys are into like rockabilly and stuff.
And it's like just the level of the level of technical knowledge that a lot of these guys that we see at flea markets have, where it's like they know, like, every like military jacket. They can like tell
this
it's like
type of seam construction.
It's like, okay, this is clear. It's like, oh, this is from like 1941 as opposed to like 1943 because it uses a slightly different shade of like olive or whatever. It's stuff like that, which I'm not saying that these people that I've met at flea markets are not friendly, and I'm not saying that I don't enjoy hanging out with them, but it's the same thing. It can no matter what your hobby is, there are people that will intimidate you because they know more than you. Unless you're just confident and like don't get intimidated by that, in which case, what's your secret?
Please tell us so we can be cool. No, I think there's that aspect as well, and I mean, in general, I think there's a lot of like signaling going on, right? Like, so say if you're hanging out, right, and or in a flea market, and you mention a type of construction, or you say HBT, and someone goes, "Oh, you know that?" It's kind of like, you're signaling to others that you know this thing, and if people know it, you kind of get, like get into it, right? Like you're like, "Oh, there's another one of us."
So what you should do is learn 3 facts about every subject, and just, and then you'll always be prepared.
Yeah, be a jack of all trades, right? Yeah. Just go, but no, I think it is interesting because, I mean, I think for me, again, just kind of doubling back, my whole theme has kind of been like, I want to be the person that I didn't have when I was younger, because I feel like as someone in LA, right, there is barely any menswear here. I think Spencer and I have done our part in kind of fostering some semblance of community, thanks to like going to events and everything. But there really isn't that whole kind of introductory status.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this happens within vintage too, where in vintage, it's like if you didn't put the work in researching, then you didn't really deserve it. Where this is a little bit different, but like they hated when people put eBay auctions on a Facebook group, because then they believe that the whole idea of vintage is that you're supposed to hunt and find it, and then you can grab it, because if it's out there publicly, then anyone can just get into it, right? There has to be that sense of like, again, I guess it is elitism, right? Like
people would get mad at eBay listings if it said like Great Gatsby, Mad Men, Gangster Suit, or whatever. And it's like, that is kind of annoying to see, but at the same time, it's like you're trying to fucking sell something. And if someone goes on eBay and searches Great Gatsby costume, they're more likely to find your thing than if they... more people are going to be searching that than they're going to be searching like 1920s suit.
Right. And I think, there's that side of when you post it on the eBay auctions on a Facebook group, it has a kind of like, well, what if there are people who aren't as into it, who don't know what to look for, or who don't have the time to, go through 10 pages of eBay to find that perfect, 1940s double-breasted with the correct button stance kind of thing. Yeah. When it just becomes people just kind of selling to each other, then what's the point? I've noticed that like within vintage, there isn't that sense of, and in menswear too, where there is not that sense of like, how can other people get into it? And I'm sure that's a controversial opinion because, again, within menswear, it's like if you didn't do the research, or if you don't you didn't buy the Drake's tie, you didn't get the Neapolitan suit, you're just kind of not a part of the club. But I think that I felt that it's important to kind of explain why you like something or why it's appealing, as opposed to kind of just standing over there and then learning on your own, and then finally you're within the group. Because I feel like that's not as I wouldn't trust people in it to kind of open it up. And I think that it goes back to what you said, Spencer, it perpetuates itself.
Yeah.
And until people can break that cycle of letting people in and changing people's opinions, or at least sharing them, then it won't change.
I will say that I think most just like menswear people are more open to are more open-minded than a lot of vintage
people think.
Vintage people, because I think most of the people that we know that almost exclusively wear, like, even if they exclusively wear suits, I think a lot of the people we know could look at like streetwear, tech wear, whatever, and still appreciate it. But and I don't.
Vintage won't do that.
No, I don't want to make this podcast like trash talk all our friends who are into vintage. But most of them are like, they see anything other than a vintage suit and they're like, ugh, why would you wear something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that happens. Yeah, but I mean, I do think that the contemporary menswear world is definitely more open. I just think that I don't know.
Is it harder to get into, even though it's more open, because it's like definitely a higher cost of entry?
I think that's exactly what it is, and I think I don't think that it's wrong to just blame the people. Like, not everyone has to be friendly, not everyone has to be open, but I think that the intimidation factor is definitely bigger, which prevents people from even trying to get in, because you could go into like a drink. Who's the host of Fear Factor? Jonathan
Joe Rogan?
I have no idea.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, Fear Factor.
But I think that what's it called? That I think the intimidation factor is bigger. Even though like you could wander into a random Rowing Blazers party apparently, because when we went, anyone could be in that fucking thing.
Yeah.
But it's just an interesting thing in there, and again, it could just be that people just don't share everything about their lives, right?
Yeah, because yeah,
it's not their. It's okay. I don't want people to think like it's really not anyone's fault for being private about their personal lives.
It's like if you don't want to share like what you're doing all the time, absolutely don't have to. But it's like you get a different sense from someone whose Instagram is only outfit shots, maybe with just like a description. It's like, this jacket is from this brand or whatever, these pants are from this brand, versus someone who puts random stuff on their story, or just like every once in a while breaks up the feed with, it's like, here's a picture from my vacation or a coffee shop that I like or whatever.
Right. I think exactly. And within menswear, it is hard for people to kind of do that, I think, sometimes. I mean, I think the artsier side, like the I guess the J Muser boys now, as they should be called, have more of that kind of personal touch to them. But again, it's not their fault if they want to, they're fucking. Nope, they share their cooking too, I guess. Yeah. I was gonna say like what they're eating, but yeah, I mean, it's an interesting lifestyle. I think everyone's got a specific one that they kind of do, and there's definitely like cliques of it as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's super interesting. Spencer, do you want to look through the comments? Anything you want to like?
The comments are frozen for me.
Okay, well I'll do that.
I'm still seeing.
So how do you think that we stack up to the whole?
I mean, at least I'm
lifestyle?
like I don't know. I don't think I live that lifestyle, but a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, like, I enjoy. Like I like watching old movies. I like good food. I like whiskey cocktails, but I wouldn't. It's not like I'm. I wouldn't say I live like the classic lifestyle.
How about compared to like the New York boys?
I know, like you said, I don't think I'm. Yeah, I don't think it's the same thing there either. Yeah, it's again, I like a lot of the same things, but it's not a lifestyle for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know the definition of like where.
And once again, I want to make it clear that we're not trashing any of these people.
Yeah, no. It's just interesting observations that we've like kind of picked up on. I think my personal view is that it comes off as elitist, and then that fact kind of makes it hard for both sides to be open. So right?
How would you change it? Is there anything that you would? I
don't know.
If you were the president of menswear.
Well, I think it's really cool. I think that I think that places like or podcasts like Blammo or like Handcut Radio, maybe a little bit more Blammo than Handcut, but like I think through interviews with these like bigger like menswear guys, it kind of helps dive deep into who they are as people and show that they're not just people who just, stand around drinking Negronis or whatever.
Yeah.
Jake Grantham, I read that, in the podcast, he was in a punk band, which is not surprising, but that's just like a thing. Or, when I was talking to Ethan Newton and he casually mentioned that he's played Red Dead Redemption, and I'm like, that's fucking cool. It's stuff like that. And I know, I feel like, I'll get into how I fit into all this, lifestyle wise, but what I've noticed is, they might not be that they want to present a brand, but people definitely do that regardless, right? Your Instagram is your brand. This could also tie into why I hate influencers, because then their brand is just advertising. But, I think menswear guys, to me, it seems almost private, which is totally fine. But then as a guy who can only see you from Instagram, because I don't know them in real life, the life just becomes whatever you decide to show me. So if all you do is post Negronis, then I feel like that's all you do, right? And so it's just interesting when people kind of don't share some interesting things that may not be, it's not personal life, but it's also something just kind of that adds to the flavor pot of your flavor pot of your personality. I think it'd be cool if we did see what Ethan Newton played on Red Dead Redemption, because again, Spencer and I can only guess to what he wears in his characters, right? You could see, I think it's really cool now. I think quarantine has definitely changed all that.
What I've been
kind of sharing more and more.
What I think the new status symbol is going to be is practical, having practical skills, because I've seen a lot of people being showing those off on their stories right now, and maybe this is, I don't want to say showing off, because it's not showing off to post a picture of a meal you cooked, but we're seeing a lot of people post here's the project that I did today, I fixed a shelf in my house, or I made a coat, which a couple of our friends are doing, and I think it's great. But yeah, I think that.
So we're useless.
Yes.
in the post-apocalyptic world, I will be a traveling bard.
Yeah, I don't have many.
That is what
I don't have
do.
many practical.
Here's something that our friend Marco kind of pushed in here. I think this is something we should really touch on. But I think it says here, the menswear lifestyle is the wet dream of every male yuppie that was educated in the Northeast. I think that's definitely true, whether it's ironic or not. I think that people definitely idealize the WASP kind of thing, right? You have a vacation home, you're all, you're the thing with preps and WASP is that it has this sense of classicness to it, right? Or dapper, whatever you want to call it. You're well dressed, but then you're also in the country, you're in America, you're near the woods, right? You probably went camping and stuff. It's the idealized version of all that, and it doesn't, to me at least, it doesn't leave a lot of room for other stuff, because preps make fun of nerds, right? There's no video games doesn't really fit into the whole prep or the classic prep kind of thing, right? What goes in there? Art, fine food, maybe not to the extent of gourmet Michelin star stuff, but good food, home cooked, making a steak for yourself, whatever. There's not fast food doesn't fit into that lifestyle, right? The classic prep ideology. I'm sure I have a copy of the prep handbook,
but at
somewhere.
The same time, I feel
me.
Eating fast food in a fancy suit is a cliche, artsy, cool post.
That is definitely true.
Yeah, eating eating a burger on the hood of your car or whatever, wearing a Neapolitan suit. That would get hella engagement, baby.
Are you really? We should test this out though, because I feel I've worked with a lot of other brands, and one in particular comes to mind where it was very clear what the target market was. They didn't want to show new cars; they wanted to show vintage Porsches and everything. It was very dialed in, and I have a feeling, personally for me, I don't think that really works. I feel that's a little too weird for some people, because it is too much of the best of the best mentality. But also, I feel once you get to a certain age in menswear, whether you're the artsy young type or the the luxury bespoke type, whatever, there is that sense of the past is bad, right? I don't want to regress. Yeah. Oh, you do. That's a Kylo Ren Sad jokes explained. But yeah, but there, I mean, I have it where I look at like stuff from my pictures, like, you know, like my old Hugo Boss suits, you know, from the mall or whatever. But there is that sense of, you know, if they were super big nerds, they don't really talk about it as much, or it doesn't really come up as often. Because I think that, you know, there are exceptions to the rule, but I do feel there's a little bit of regret, maybe not regret, but just kind of a little bit of shame. I think everyone has that, though.
Everyone has shame.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think on that?
Are you just talking about like what people aren't like sharing old outfits or whatever? Is that?
No, I don't think it's that. I think it's like, you know, when you get to a certain stage, I think it's like you don't really talk about, like, there's no that guilty pleasure stuff anymore. It's like everything's kind of like curated, and again, that could just portray into like the lifestyle you want to present, right?
Yeah.
Because I think when you're in menswear, if you like the best of the best, clearly you have to do and watch things that are the best of the best, right? Criterion Collection.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I think it just it also depends. Like the big thing that, you know, that is really affecting all this is how willing people are to share their personal life on their Instagram. Because there's a clear separation. Like, you know, you might be more willing to just share pictures of your outfits than you are. It's like I'm about to go watch, you know, like my favorite TV show or my favorite movie, and it's like Grown Ups 2 or whatever.
I would love to see that if someone had that.
Like people are, you know, it's just like, what part of your life do you want to share with others?
Right. And I'll be curious to find out, you know, maybe if we bring back in guests or whatever, but like why that is. Because I feel like, again, to me, it's not like I'm sharing like my mom's address or something, but I feel like it's just an interesting thing of like, this is like, if my Instagram is literally like me, it's the thing I only care about, right? Then I feel like it's cool to share things that kind of add flavor, add to the flavor pot, right? Because I feel like, you know, I share a lot of stuff. Me and you share a lot of stuff. Political stuff. I think that's a big thing. That's not very common in menswear.
But that also might just
conservative
be because,
or
liberal, because it's whatever. Like, you know, if you're a public figure who wants to get a job that involves a lot of social media and stuff like that, maybe, you know, politics is just not one of the things you want to have out there. Like, I know that, like, you know, I'm a journalism student. I don't know if I want to be a journalist, right. But one thing they recommend is when you get your first job, wipe all of your social media, everything.
Right. I mean, that happens. I mean, like, I remember listening to the ABG podcast, and one of them was going to be on a reality show, and after the background thing, they came back to her with like all her tweets printed out.
And so it's like if you own a brand, then you can post whatever you want. But if you're not content to stay at one place forever, maybe you don't want to post something, even like on a story that may not go with the brand ethos that you're like hoping to work for. You flipped your camera on Instagram.
I definitely did. I'm trying to turn it around. There you are.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at whether whatever. I'm just going to leave it there.
You're just going to leave it.
Ooh, this is a good question. Here we go. Do you think that one's ideal lifestyle is attributed to their style? Ideal lifestyle is, yeah.
Are you talking about like the lifestyle that you would want to lead? Or the?
I guess so. I mean, I think that's a big part of it, because like there is that essence of like within menswear or whatever, right? Like when you put on a suit, you are putting on what the suit stands for.
Yeah. In
a sense.
I'd say so. I think your interests influence the clothes that you like.
I mean, it's interesting, you know, if you're into workwear and you like working with your hands, as many of them do, you know, a lot of, like, especially a lot of our friends who are into it have started making their own clothes. I feel like that goes hand in hand.
Which I would love to do. Like I did like a really quick repair on something, but because I couldn't figure out how to use my sewing machine, it took all day. And so it's like seeing friends that are making entire suits or jackets or whatever. That's just like crazy to me.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I mean, we have quarantine to learn, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna try to learn. That's a practical skill that I'd like to have.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the last question we have here, or one of the last ones, was like, what type are you guys? Well, I think that Spencer and I are both kind of, we associate more with like the artsy side because they're younger. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
whole, we like, similar taste in art, and I'm sure Spencer can similar taste in music. I definitely don't, because I definitely am very unlike, at least in terms of my interests, very unlike a lot of the people into who are in menswear, at least that I found, because it's, with general, right? Everyone has varying degrees of interest. Just because people are into Star Wars, does that mean they like it as much as you? Um, as I've found with a lot of Star Wars fans, we all like different aspects of it. Because Rogue One sucks.
Okay.
But there's a big difference. I think that, to me, I've always been a big nerdy guy. I think it just happened to be that I got super into clothes as well. Like, I collect the the Black Series figures and everything. I have I can't wait till the complete cross section guide comes out that I
Wow.
sent, because hey, Spencer owns the visual dictionary of the TLJ, which
do.
I don't even have.
I have
I
it.
don't even have that.
I have it right here. I got it because it was like $5 at Barnes and Noble, and I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? Why not? I like visual dictionary. Like, I like visual guides to things. I like reading art books.
And art books of Star Wars.
Well, no, just
definitely
like
fits
art.
in.
I don't know. Like,
No,
I'm,
I know.
I'm
I
very,
know.
I'm very interested in like the design that goes into like movies and video games and TV shows or whatever. So I like looking at concept art for stuff.
Oh, me too. I mean, and I also love lore. I
Mhm.
think a narrative is a big thing to me, if you guys don't already know. That's why I write from a very personal standpoint. I write films. That's why I got into film scores, because film scores are literally musical narratives. But yeah, I think I just like a lot of different stuff that are typical of nerd culture.
Yeah.
But then, I also like other artsy stuff. I like, I haven't watched a lot of opera, but I like, I like a lot of music stuff. I like watching conducting in concert. I love films, maybe not as much as Spencer, but there's I think everyone has a bunch of different stuff, but I think the difference is that I willingly share it a lot. I don't think that makes me better than anybody, but I think it's just something that I
You're just
choose
more.
to share.
Yeah, you're more open than.
Yeah, because just in case there are people who are like me out there, there's a lot of extra touch points that you can like get into, right? And I think like on MFA, there's a couple of friends that we have totally different styles, but we get along, not just because we're just in an MFA, but because we both like Star Wars, right? Or we both are, we both like eating the same type of food, or we both play an instrument. I think that being well-rounded in that sense helps open you up to just having more friends in general, which I like. And maybe it's my hope that if they like you, they'll get into dressing in menswear, right? Just like our friend MJ, right? MJ before this had no don't get on mic, by the way. But if you, on paper, MJ would not be into menswear, right? He's a computer science major, a CSI major, CIS major,
CSI.
Confederacy of Independent Systems.
That's it.
But he just we were friends, and he's like, hey, what do you think looks good? And we're like, hey, start out with selvage jeans. Got him into it. Now he wears high-waisted pleated trousers.
Yep.
He's looking for loafers. Just
Looking for
that kind of
loafers
thing
in all the wrong
That kind of thing
places.
makes me happy, right? And then we have friends who are not into menswear, and we still get along. And I think that kind of all contributes like this kind of lifestyle that I lead, where it's not really defined by anything. I just happen to be into stuff. I don't really like drinking all that much. I like going to trivia, where I get my one drink.
Yeah.
And it could just be, again, in closing, I think it could just be like where we are in life. I think that compared to, let's say, like the Permanent Style, Paul Luke Sartoria, like the Baker guys, again, they are established in their industries. They're established in their jobs. They're high-paying lawyers. They've done the work, and they deserve, rightfully, to kind of just do whatever. And if that includes being into menswear, being into fine dining, then that's fine. And then you compare that to like our New York friends. They live in a really cool city. They are around a lot of other creative types. They're into, they're friends with the guys who write for GQ, who are all young, cool, cultured people. That's cool too. And then for us, Spencer's still in college. Our friends are still in college. So I feel like that kind of also defines our lifestyle. We might eat junk food more than a restaurant, because that's just what young young to slightly under mid 20-year-old people do.
Yeah, like if I was more financially, if I had more disposable income, I'm sure I would be more into a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today.
Right. I mean that could be it for everything.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that age, career as well. I mean, I'm sure that when you're like a lawyer, there's a lifestyle that comes with being a lawyer apart from menswear as well that could also dictate kind of how you are, how you act, and everything. And same thing with with nerds, right? Like, I'm around other nerdy people who share like the latest episode of My Hero Academia that comes out. So if I'm around that when I watch it, it's like, hey, I'm doing that too, right? Mm-hmm. So it comes from a different standpoint. So again, we're not really bashing at anybody. We're just it was just interesting to kind of just talk the discussion.
People are different.
Yeah, don't listen to everything. People are just different. And again, every day when we get to become closer with these people who work in the industry, or at least like wearing the stuff, you find that they have other interests too. They're not just into wearing soft shoulders and wide lapels. They could be into watching Godard films. They could be a Ness main, because fuck Ness mains, because Scott is awful.
Okay.
Or they could be super into collecting old Hot Wheels, which I've actually met and stuff, and old and Lego sets from like the 90s, which is a thing.
Yeah.
But some people have varying degrees of interest, and your friends kind of dictate who you are as well. Because I think, like we said, when you're around other people, it kind of just perpetuates it. I'm sure that Simon's friends on social media don't really share a lot. I know my parents don't. They have social media. They don't share really anything on social media. And so it's just, it just depends on who you want to project, what you want to project, and how comfortable you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. We have not really a question, but a story.
Ooh,
for last
story time.
The Instagram is going to end in a second, but it doesn't matter because you guys are listening to this on the podcast, so it'll keep going. This is from my friend Tom Chung, who is a reader of the blog, and I've occasionally talked to him on Instagram a couple of times. Here is his story that he is sharing. Half a decade ago, when I first stepped into the professional environment, one would be frowned upon by the firm's senior management if seen sans tie, or asked to go home and change if seen in a checkered suit. I was the most junior guy in the office, albeit wearing a three-piece suit with peak lapels and loud and wide peak lapels. Immediately learned not to do that later on that morning. I have probably watched a bit too much Mad Men and Suits. After a few tides of casualization of the firm's dress code policy, I have now read and seen a bit more and had the pleasure of becoming a slightly more mature social livestock who is known to keep his tie on, mostly solid ones and Shantug or knit, with stripes and foulards just as much, occasionally checks and summer madras or whatever, and who wear sport coats, mostly navy, sometimes far coarse and tartan, milk and sugar, seersucker, or brown knit. So this kind of plays into the whole. I mean, thank you, Tom, for the story. I think that that's a very important part because I sometimes wonder if Simon or whoever's choices within menswear have been dictated by their profession, right? Simon is famously known for being very toned down. He's written repeatedly. I mean, he doesn't really wear camp collar shirts because I think he thinks that they're too vacation-y for him or something. And that could be because he was a journalist for like the BBC for like years. Only until recently has he been able to work permanent style full-time and and wear like sawtooth denim shirts from Bryceland's, or wear like a hoodie and like an overcoat, right? I think that definitely plays a big part into like the lifestyle as well, where you think you see like the guys who work at Jamie's or who work at Drake's who are very casual with their approach to menswear, wearing jeans, heavy rolled OCBDs, whatever, but that's because they worked in the industry, right? If they were lawyers, they probably could not get away with that. If I had become an accountant like I originally was going to be like 7 years ago or whatever. I burped. Take a shot. I think that my mode of dress would definitely be very different.
I think if you were an accountant, you would be really into pocket protectors, and your glasses would constantly be broken and taped together.
I mean, I have a middle part in my hair, but I don't grease it down.
You would still be wearing high-waisted trousers and suspenders, but with short sleeve shirts. Yeah. And you would always be like, where's my calculator?
Let me calculate that real quick.
That's how
auditing.
That's how accountants do it.
Yeah. But I think, that's always something to consider too. I mean, Spencer and I are kind of speaking this from, again, privilege, where as a younger guy, we can get away with wearing a lot of different shit.
And it's like, both of us are wearing jobs where we could wear whatever we want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't really matter if we went to get dinner. There's no that extra subtext, which again is a lifestyle thing. Sometimes in different other lifestyles, there is some of that extra context that you need to be aware of.
Yeah, our friend Jay, who dresses a little bit more conservatively, but that's because he works in the business world, and so
yeah,
it's like he can admire a lot of the same stuff that we do, but he's not going to spend his money on it if he's not going to be able to wear it.
Right. Much. And then, and even then, right? Like, he's a business guy. Business guys tend to be a little bit more conservative in what they post on social media compared to, say, Spencer and I, who have a bit, are into journalism. I guess the bloke called me a style journalist or whatever, so I'm gonna call myself a journalist. Okay. But I feel like there's more to share, right? Like, if we see a tweet that we'll share it. Where compared to some other people, you may not feel comfortable doing that. Everyone's got their own different context that comes with their life. And ergo their lifestyle.
Exactly.
And maybe posting a picture of a Negroni is the most normal thing you can do, because there is no context around it other than that you knew enough to do a Negroni.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Spencer and I tend to be projecting any kind of elitism, whether it's subconscious or consciously. I hope that we don't, because I think a big thing about being in LA is that we don't have very many friends who dress up. So I think that we like to foster the community down here, and we talk to most people. I mean, there could be a thing of we're not saying that anyone can just be our super close personal best friend, because there should be boundaries.
Yeah.
But I think that one of the things that because it's so different here, that we've kind of become the changes kind of exude that whole we're like regular guy kind of thing. Because we're not as like a political tool or anything, but just that we know we've been around and we've seen some other stuff, and we want other people to get into it.
Yep.
And I think the best way to do that is by being open. You don't have to, but that's just the approach that Spencer and I, especially me, tend to do with these kind of things. And it's worked out. I mean, we've met a lot of great friends here, also in the Street Expensive Facebook group. And a lot of them tend to be guys that we would probably hang out with even if we weren't into menswear.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of us are into Star Wars, and we can talk about it, right? I think that's the cool part as well. And, if you want to take any lesson, I think that I definitely am on the side of sharing a bit more. Maybe, again, to your comfort level, but just in the sense of, spicing up the flavor pot of your personality and lifestyle.
You'd love that. You love that so much.
It's gonna be a T-shirt, flavor pot. No, I think it's interesting, because I think I've had a lot of conversations with people, and become friends with people that I wouldn't normally have if I didn't share something. I think that let's like my friend Joletta, who worked at Oscar Hunt Taylor's in Melbourne. She's super into anime and manga. Wouldn't have known that, and that stuff can happen within regular conversation, but also sharing stuff tends to help as well, and people wouldn't know that I love film score if I didn't share that on my social media, or that I guess Korean barbecue is one of our favorite foods, because every time we go we always share pictures from it.
Are you thinking about getting some thinly sliced meats, doing some home Korean barbecue? Because that thought has definitely passed my mind.
Man, I've straight up just thought about cooking myself a steak. So
yeah,
that's similar, same thing, same energy. But yeah, again, thanks to Tom for submitting that state of the story. I think it's a really big thing that definitely we get a lot of questions about. A lot of people wonder how to do the classic menswear with interest in their professional environment, where interests like checks may not be as prominent, but things are changing now, and hopefully that's a good thing. Because let's say in the future, if I ever work at an advertising firm, I would hope that I would not have to wear a boring old navy suit all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for listening. Thank you for everyone on the Instagram live to commented and asked some questions in there. If you want to follow us, I'm sure there'll be show notes in here just with a brief recap, maybe some pictures. That'll be on the blog, and the link is in the description. Follow the blog on Instagram. We're posting more mood pictures and inspiration pictures.
Yep.
So get ready for that. That is Style and Direction, all spelled out. I am at Ethan M. Wong.
I'm at Spencer DSO.
Big ups to Matthew and MJ for producing the podcast. Please do not get on mic. I know it is ending, but please don't. Give us a review if you wish, and remember to submit your own stories and questions in the submission form in the show notes or in the description. We will see you guys in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. This is my wife. Honey pot. Wait, that's the wrong one.
What are you talking about?
Flavor pot.
Okay.
I said honey pot because of the whole sex thing.
I'm aware.
Like the spies.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Okay. I'm just in case people listening don't
Okay.
know what that is.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Play the credits.